Let's take lapdog Tony Blair. I call him the senator from England. Lapdog Tony Blair, who never met a U.S. president whose hand he didn't want to lick. Just a few weeks ago, Tony Blair was saying we're going right down the line, we're going to be in there, we're going to take the action, usual stuff. And then 350,000 Brits demonstrated, remember? And now Blair has shifted over, remember? Right. In Italy, Saturday, has it been reported anywhere? In Italy, 1.5 million Italians demonstrated all over Italy, estimated 1.5 million Italians. The people are aware and the people are moving, despite their stupidities, despite the way they can be fooled about things at times. It's amazing. What is amazing is that in the face of this monopoly propaganda that we get in the States, and I think you get a lot of it here in Canada too, in the face of that, we still have people who are questioning and who are wondering. The people of Ecuador, in weeks of civil siege, have forced the government to rescind privatization. There are warrants out in several countries for Pinochet's scalp. At least 3 different countries have warrants out for Henry Kissinger. That's good. There's a struggle going on right now to keep the collective farms in capitalist Russia, to keep them and not give them up. There's land redistribution going on in Brazil, done by the people themselves, seizing the land all through southern Brazil. There have been massive demonstrations all over the world. There have been general strikes. Even in the U.S., demonstrations are beginning. We're beginning to gather momentum on this whole Iraq thing. I was in Marin County just 2 weeks ago. Marin County in California is vintage. It's California essence, you know. And I talked to the organizers there. They said, you know, we have a peace vigil. 10 people show up with candles against the war. And this past week, we got up there, and 150 people came with candles. And the people that kept going by in cars, a constant blasting of their horns. It didn't stop. It's what is that? Continual blasting of the horns and people giving the thumbs up and cheering and saying, yes, no war, no war. Marin County said we had a demonstration. We were hoping to get 300 or 400 people, and 2,000 people came out in Marin County. That's Marin County. I mean, that's hundreds of people who abandoned their hot tubs, who skipped their yoga classes, their meditation sessions, trudging the hot streets, some of them supplied with nothing more than a granola bar. I mean, the image it's inspiring. It's an inspiring, beautiful image, you know. It's moving all the rest of us. Just the other day in Cincinnati, 5,000 people came out in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, Cincinnati, Ohio is considered part of the U.S. heartland. Some people call it the wasteland, but whatever. I mean, Cincinnati people... That was an unusual figure, and it's just starting. 5,000 people. That's hundreds, you know, leaving their bowling alleys and whatever else, and going out there and doing these things. So, we have people in motion, and we must inform ourselves. We've got to organize and mobilize. We've got to join with other groups, labor unions, community groups, church groups, professional associations, at all levels. There's no going back to 1900. The future has to be not their future, but our future. Now, and at the same time, we have to, while mobilizing, reaching out to other people, we have to impact on our leaders and let them get the message right, let them know, and let them know that you're not just speaking for yourself, but for many others, that they cannot pursue this kind of course. Well, people sometimes say to me, well, what do you have, a conspiracy theory? Do you think there's Do you think these leaders are just deliberately trying to manipulate the whole world just to suit themselves? What do you say? Conspiracy theorists. How do you like that? I mean, do you think there's actually a group of men sitting in a room who sit there and are plotting these things? For some reason, do you hear that? You have that up here? You think there's a group of people sitting around in a room? But somehow that image is supposed to be very compelling, you know? So improbable. And I always say, oh, no, they don't sit around in a room. They meet on carousels and they talk to each other that way. Or they do, what do they call that? Free falling. No, with the parachute guys? They all lock arms. You see those parachutes? What? Skydivers. They all skydive. You see them locking arms. What do you think they're talking about when they're all locked arms like that? That's where they meet. Of course they meet in rooms. Where the hell else do you think they're going to meet? They have... Do you have a stochastic theory? There's a word. Look it up. Look it up. Stochasticism is the theory that everything happens by chance. So you have a coincidence theory? Stuff just happens. Oh, George the First wanted to bomb Iraq. George the Second wants to bomb it. It just must run in the family. Well, I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to say, you know, in ancient Rome, it was mentioned that I've just written this book called The Assassination of Julius Caesar, People's History of Ancient Rome. Fascinating. I spent 5 years doing it on and off, interrupting it constantly, stealing time from it. But it was a fascinating book. But I think all of these issues, all of these things began in ancient Rome. I don't really believe that, but I'm pushing that line now because of the book. But let me tell you something about ancient Rome. Ancient Rome, there were some notables in ancient Rome who got the idea that slaves, Roman slaves, should get some visible insignia. They should be made to wear whatever it was, a black tunic or some emblem or something, so that slaves could be visible. Because there was a problem with slaves. They mingled in many work sites. You had free labor and slave labor working together, and they would often then, you know, begin to form common sentiments and interests and all that sort of thing. And one of the ways they always tried to distract the plebs, the Roman plebs, the Roman proletariat, was by giving them the fear, spooking them about the slaves. There's a slave, oh, the slaves, watch out, you know. Oh, that leader, he's really going to free all the slaves and he'll get you and all that sort of thing. So and slaves would often even show up at the forum and shout out at the assembled and all that sort of thing. So they wanted to put the slaves in their place. To put them in their place, they decided they were all going to have to wear a visible uniform of some kind. And then they dropped that idea. Do you know why? Because they realize they give the slaves this kind of visibility, the slaves themselves will begin to get a sense of their own numbers and strength. Not only will they be visible to us, but they'll be visible to each other. They will find each other. They will see who they are and their numbers. And so we citizens, you know, of whom they would make slaves, and they would, we need to see who we are. We need to see our strength and our numbers, and we just need to see our critical independence of mind and action, for that's what they fear the most, our critical independence of mind and action. And when the people are ready to lead, the leaders will eventually follow. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.